Now we just finished measure 9, which was this. It will have 3 notes that lead us into the second half of section A, which begins at measure 10. But before we do that, I want to discuss the chords that we have in the background of these first 8 measures. A lot of times if you look at a piece of classical music, you miss the fact that there's an underlying chord progression. For instance, I could play Fur Elise like this if I wanted to. And all I did there was take the 3 notes that we've been using between the 2 hands and just playing a chord. Same thing when it went to, I could take those 3 notes in the left hand, including the B up here, and wind up with an E chord. What's happening here is there's an underlying chord that's going on, and we're breaking it up into an arpeggio. For instance, right here, these 3 notes, A, E, and A, are out of an A minor chord. We'll especially see it when the right hand then plays that C right after we finish this arpeggio. What's going on the left hand here are arpeggios. We'll see this also when we get to measure 10. So we're just using 3 notes out of the chord, and that mixed with what the right hand is doing will give you the complete chord when you put the notes all together. This is a little more common in the Romantic period, which is where this piece is from. Beethoven lived from 1770 to 1827. Bach, who's really known for his work in the Baroque period, was 1685 to 1750. So Bach's style would be a little different. He would go with a counterpoint. And to illustrate this, let me use Minuet in G. So what's happening here, instead of like a chord, which is more typical of maybe folk music in that time period, as it is with folk music in our time period. If he decided he wanted to do an arpeggio, he could go. Instead, what he went with was what we call a counter melody. It's like its own song going on against the right hands. Still, though, both songs are following the underlying chord progression. So while you really can't hear the chord, either in an arpeggio or just a block chord, there is still that underlying chord progression going on that both hands are following. By the time we get to Beethoven, that style with the counter melody, also called counterpoint, is pretty much out of style. You might see it in sections of the song, but at this point we're moving more into the Romantic period where the chord shows up a lot more strongly, especially if you take something like Moonlight Sonata. And that's almost all arpeggios in that right hand. So the chord is more obvious by the time we get to Beethoven, especially in Fur Elise where we see just simple arpeggios. So that's kind of a keystone marker for the Romantic period. And I want to point this out so that as we go through this song and we see more of what the left hand is doing, we can see the chord that's going on. Because most music is based around chords, not notes. So there's an underlying chord progression going on, and if you can tap into that, then it will give you a better idea of what to expect in each hand. But also it will help you to memorize the song better because you understand it's just chords down there and not notes that you have to memorize each note. You can say, oh, well, this is just my A minor chord progression or arpeggio. That's C arpeggio, there's the G. It'll be easier to move this around in your head if you understand they're just chords down there. Okay, so let's move on now to measure 10.